Hi, I'm meteorologist Tony Petrarca in the Pinpoint 12 Forecast Center. You've clicked on the Weather Now link on this Tuesday late afternoon around 3:30. What's the weather like? Well, boy, it depends on your location. Let's start with Narragansett, down in Narragansett Town Beach. Very windy, raining, but you'll be changing to snow here shortly, and some large waves, even though the tide is going out. Up in North Scituate, well, first of all, Providence, and you can see, well, the reduced visibility. This is actually, I know it's hard to see, but it's actually rain and wet snow. And it'll change to all snow in Providence very shortly. And we take it to North Scituate. Drops on the camera lens, but if you look closely, you can see some wet, fat snowflakes. This is the intersection of Route 101 and 102. This is the kind of deal where, the pavement is still relatively mild. This has a hard time sticking to the pavement. Initially, it'll stick to non-paved surfaces, and then as it gets colder, once the sun sets, it'll start to stick to any untreated roads. And while we do anticipate some accumulations, we're not anticipating large accumulations, and we'll show you the numbers. We've actually lowered our snowfall accumulation just a bit, but it's right up in here, the northern part of the state, where you've got a better chance of some accumulations. In fact, that's where the winter storm warning remains in effect. This is confined in this purple area, north and west of Providence. These higher elevations where it's cooler, you've got a better shot. Elsewhere in purple is what we call a winter weather advisory. Some snow, some accumulations, but not as much as what you'll get up in the northern part of the state. And I'll show you the numbers in just a second. So, with the timeline here, right now, and we're taping this as of 3:30 in the afternoon, that expected transition from north to south of rain to wet snow, wind increasing as well. And then for this evening and through the early part of the night, snow with some accumulations, not excessive, wind gusts increasing 30, 50 miles per hour. Overnight tonight, the snow is actually much, much lighter. In fact, by Wednesday morning, other than a leftover flurry, I don't see any issues with any big precipitation, though still kind of windy, especially during the morning. Speaking of wind, strongest wind, east coastal Mass, where there's a high wind warning. Further to the west in our area, gusts anywhere from 35 to 50 miles per hour. We do have a wind advisory for southeastern Mass and parts of southeast Connecticut, high wind warning for the areas in red. And while we don't have a wind advisory necessarily for Rhode Island, it doesn't mean that the winds are calm. It is still quite windy, but clearly the stronger winds are going to be felt out in southeastern Massachusetts. Temperatures as of the 3 o'clock, almost 4 o'clock hour. And while you can see, while not terribly cold, it is certainly cooler now in Burrillville, Cumberland, even western Coventry. It's nearly 5-6 degrees milder along the South Shore. So this is where we're getting some of the wet snow right now. But if you want snow to stick, you really have to have these numbers below freezing. So that's why it's hard to stick on the roads. The roads end up being either wet or just wet with a little bit of slush on them. Here's a satellite and radar composite. The blue is snow and the green is rain, so we're starting to see that transition over to wet snow from north to south. The storm itself is off the coastline, that big red L, and what it will do as it intensifies, it'll initially spin back towards the coastline this evening, actually coming closer, then dropping to the south and pulling away overnight. So as it draws closer, the wind will start to pick up, and that's where we'll start to see several hours of some enhanced snow during the evening, and then it pulls away after midnight. So by Wednesday, really don't see much in the way of snow. Here's a different look at it, keeping in mind, this is the forecast, keeping in mind that the blue is snow, and you see that this evening through at least the midnight hour. But notice how the shades of blue, which represents where the snow will be, how it becomes scattered and sort of falling apart around midnight. And then during the overnight and by daybreak tomorrow, other than a leftover flurry, this is actually pulling away and things are drying out. Windy, cool in the morning, but mainly cloudy skies. And other than a flurry, there's really not much precipitation. This is 8 o'clock in the morning. You see the storm now is well offshore. So we're getting real close as far as, we'll get a more detailed look here. This is 7 o'clock in the evening. That blue is snow. Here we are still snowing at 10. Midnight, it's winding down, and then towards, here we are, 7 o'clock in the morning. Mostly cloudy. Could be a couple of flurries. And then during the afternoon, even a few passing flurries. But it's just basically a breezy, dry, cool day with extra clouds and just an occasional flurry. We don't see any additional snow. So Wednesday's not a storm day. In fact, we're clearing clear skies by Wednesday night. All right, so we've lowered these numbers, the accumulations, and this won't occur until later in the evening and during the overnight hours. Still feel as though the most snow and would be right up in here. The small sliver in the Foster, Gloucester, Burrillville, Pasco, Killingly, Danielson, Connecticut, right up in here. In the I-95 corridor from Kent to Providence to Attleboro, somewhere between 1 and 3. So as low as 1 to as much as 3. Right now, I would sort of split the difference and say that this light blue area is probably just maybe 2 inches, and then little to nothing as you get further south and east. So for this evening and tonight, it is windy and cold with wet snow. Temperatures in the low to mid 30s as we take you into Wednesday morning. It's pretty much dry other than a passing flurry. Mostly cloudy, windy, temps in the mid 30s. Clouds, occasional sun on Wednesday afternoon, but mostly cloudy, and temperatures in the upper 30s to lower 40s.